Yo, what's up, everybody? Last talk of the day. How's it going? Got a few people in the crowd. Yeah, I still got some excitement. The beer started over here already, I think. Okay, yeah, I'm Austin Griffith. I'll be talking about building decentralized apps quickly. And usually I do a workshop. A lot of times I'm sitting here with a laptop building something, and I kind of assumed that's what I was going to do here. Then I found out I needed to do a presentation. So I'll do my normal coding workshop, but via slides, kind of in the middle of this. But I work for the Build Guild DAO, and we do a lot of things in a lot of different areas, but the TLDR for building apps quickly is use scaffold ETH, and I'll get into that more as we go, but let's zoom out a little bit and let me just give you a little context about the Build Guild and where we're focused. So the Build Guild is a Wyoming DAO. It consists of, who knows, I think we have like 1,000 members or something like that have joined. But these are the three pillars. We focus on education, tooling, and grant giving. And let's kind of dive into each one of those. In the tooling section, I will go through how to build decentralized apps quickly. But I thought, let's do some slides and let's give a higher level picture. So education first. We do a lot of education. We focus on onboarding. We want to bring as many developers on board as we can. We're kind of finding that, yes, price action brings in developers. As sad as we want to be about it, like people want to program money and they think they can make money programming money, and you probably can. And I know that's going to bring you into this space, but once you land, you're going to learn so much more, and you're going to pick up the ethos, and you're going to find out about what makes Ethereum special. So getting you down that rabbit hole is our job. And the farther down the rabbit hole you go, the more likely you're going to stick when that bear market comes around. So we want to get you all the aha moments as fast as we can. We want to put a little ETH in your hands, and we want to incentivize you to prototype. And Speedrun Ethereum spends a lot of time really focusing on those aha moments, and we built this curriculum in a way that will give you those aha moments. I've done a lot of one-on-one mentorships and tried a lot of things and found these moments that work. One example is a Web3 cron job is different from a Web2 cron job. It's not just something that checks in every hour from a computer. It's the rules, but also the incentives. The incentives are very important. If you create a system with the right incentives, you'll get people to always check in, and your cron job will run no matter if your server has fallen over or not. And that's just a small example of one of those things that we teach and we want people to learn as they come in. You'll take on the NFT challenge, deploy that cute little buffalo. Then you'll take on the decentralized staking app. You'll learn about the superpower of Ethereum is giving you, the builder, the opportunity to build, write the rules of a system where people can coordinate together to achieve some goal. In this case, it's getting some funds together to then spend them on something else. But you learn a lot of those rules, and if you build this correctly, the players of the game only have to trust the code. They don't have to trust you, the deployer. In fact, if you deploy this thing correctly, not even you can stop it. And I think that's an interesting power of Ethereum smart contracts. Then onto the token vendor. You learn about ERC20 tokens and the approve pattern and contract-to-contract interaction. Then the dice game, you learn about randomness, which is super hard on a public deterministic blockchain. Then on to the DEX, right? You learn about hyperstructures and how to create expansive apps that have fee systems built into them that go to LPs and what all of that even means, right? And then eventually you get the opportunity to join the Build Guild, and we provide more mentoring, which I'll get to when we get to our batches program. But I wanted to zoom in here. This curriculum is not a copy-paste curriculum. You cannot just follow along and learn. You need to actually write Solidity, and there's a lot of moments like this where it's like, okay, you're gonna need to create a mapping named balances, and you're gonna need to create a threshold set to 1 ETH, and then you need to write the function where someone stakes, and they make sure that the threshold is reached, or you update the balances, right? You're gonna have to write the code. We just make it really good and clear, and there's good debugging for you. We've built a lot of debugging into it so you can really understand what's going on and try to make it look nice along the way. And then you'll build up your Web3 portfolio. As you build these things, you'll have a whole list of these cool concepts that you've conquered. And we have an auto grader, so you'll turn in your smart contracts on chain, and we'll go look at them and run them in our own isolated environment and make sure that they're correct, and then you get awarded that it was accepted, and then you unlock more challenges. So that's the education wing of Build Yield. We do lots of DevRel. We just held a workshop today. We had a workshop. We had 20 or 30, maybe 40 people in there. And we basically went through some of the challenges of speedrun Ethereum and some of our tooling, which I'll get to next. So Scaffold ETH is our main tool. It's built by a kind of an inner circle within the Build Guild called the Sand Garden, where we focus on making very intentional apps. And what we're finding is Scaffold ETH is kind of a starter kit of starter kits. We're seeing lots of people fork Scaffold ETH 2 and use it for interesting things. We were using the Scaffold Base earlier today to deploy an app on Base, and really it's like 15 minutes of work to go from Scaffold ETH to Scaffold Base, but it's just nice to have that little push in the right direction. We're going to select a chain for you. When you do a yarn fork, you're going to fork mainnet Base. Just some nice things that come out of the box with a starter kit. Okay, building decentralized apps quickly. That's technically the title of this talk, and let's pretend I'm giving a workshop now because there will be some screenshots and I'll be coding away, but let's start with Scaffold ETH. We go to scaffoldeth.io, and then you can copy either one of these. You can clone the repo, or you can do this npx create ETH. And npx create ETH gives you kind of a choose your own adventure. And we're going to add more templates for different things and more extensions for adding new things to your app. But at first, the first question is just hard hat or Foundry, right? It's still kind of people will argue, but it's still kind of a 50-50 thing. And so we want developers to be able to choose between the two. I'm selecting Foundry here, and then it gives you, it kind of installs things, and it gives you the option, or it gives you the hint that you need to go run these three things, right? You need a CD into your directory, then you need to yarn chain to spin up your Anvil, then you need to yarn deploy to deploy your template smart contract, and then you yarn start, and that'll start your dev server. So I have all three of those things here. You can kind of see the chain on the far left, and then in the middle, there's your dev server, and then on the right there, I've already deployed my contract. And this is what it looks like. You get localhost 3000, you get Scaffold ETH, and it's a web app ready to go. It's going to handle things like your wallet. It's going to handle things like if they're on the wrong network, it nudges them over to the right network. It's going to have all these nice little components like this address component where when you click on it, it takes you to the block explorer of whatever network you've set your app to be on. It's just something that we've built lots of apps, and we've gone to hackathon after hackathon, and this is our starter kit. This is what we like to build. When we go to prototype, when we go to build an app to prove that we can make something work, we're grabbing Scaffold ETH every time. A lot of times I'm doing it on camera too. And this is what is this? What do we got going on here? I feel like maybe I went too far. Yeah, Scaffold ETH. Oh, maybe this is the debug contracts. So if you click I can't see it on my screen, but you can see it up here. We were on the home page earlier, now we're on the debug contracts page. And this is a critical page. So this is going to auto-adapt to your smart contract. As you add things to your smart contract, yarn deploy, they'll show up here automatically. And this allows you to tinker with your contract and test your assumptions and try things out. Maybe you don't know exactly what you want your smart contract to do. You know, am I going to use an array? Am I going to use a linked list? Am I going to use some kind of struct? Sometimes you need to tinker with your Solidity a little bit to figure out exactly how you want it to work. Scaffold ETH is great for that. You can just sit down and try things and test your assumptions. So let's pretend like I'm adding some code. I get into my Foundry smart contract, and I'm going to add a beneficiary, right? And then I'm going to add a set beneficiary to it. By the way, the contract that comes with Scaffold ETH is like this classic greeter contract where there's a string that's saved, and you can add a greeting to it, and that'll go on chain. But forget about that. I'm just right at the top of that. I'm just adding in some extra code here. So we had, if you remember back here, there's a greeting there. It looks like someone has set the greeting to building unstoppable apps. There's an owner. Then what I'm going to do is add this beneficiary and add this new set beneficiary function. And as soon as I hit save and deploy that locally, then we get this set beneficiary function, and we see the beneficiary is the 0 address. So right after we write the code, we can see this right away on the front end. And we say, OK, so beneficiary starts at 0. I've got this function. And let's make Vitalik the beneficiary, right? So I type in vitalik.eth. It does the ENS resolution for me. It gives me a nice ENS avatar. It shows me his address and blocky. And I hit send, and it sets him as the beneficiary. So I say, OK, my code's working. Basically, the owner can set the beneficiary, and it works. And then what I want to do is try the inverse of that. Can a bad guy get in here and set the beneficiary? So I come in as a second account, and I'm using burner wallets here. They're basically private keys in local storage, great for local debugging. With a new burner wallet, kind of like our bad guy burner wallet, I fund it, and I get in here and I try to set the beneficiary to atg.eth, and it complains, not the owner, right? It throws an error back to me, and I've tested my assumptions. I've tried as the good guy setting the owner, and it worked, or beneficiary. As the bad guy, I tried setting the beneficiary, and it didn't work. So now we know that is owner modifier is working, and we're testing our assumptions, and of course, these are not exhaustive tests, but they're great for quick tests to kind of test your assumptions and make sure it does what you think it needs to do. So let's just pretend like the contract does what it needs to do. We've tinkered with it. We got it working. Now we're going to move on to the front end. This is kind of the second phase after tinkering with your smart contract. It's starting to build out some of those damn React components. And so here's our home page, and I've cleaned some extra stuff out of there. And then I'll get into the Next.js app, right? Everything we've been doing so far is kind of over in the Foundry folder. Now we're going to move over to the Next.js folder. Now I'm going to get into the app, and I'm going to use a hook. And this hook is built on top of WAGMI. We use WAGMI, V2, and Tailwind, and Daisy, and VM sometimes. But you can go look at all those docs as you're building your things. But what we're doing here is we're doing a contract read. What I want to do is read from the contract and keep that state in my front end. Use scaffold read contract will do that. I give it the contract name. Then as I type in the function name, it just gives me this autocomplete. And this is really important. It's looking at my smart contract over there in the Foundry world and giving me a hint about what function I want to use. I didn't write hardly any of this code. Between Copilot and the suggestions, I'm basically hitting tab more than I'm hitting anything else. And then here we put we get the beneficiary at the top and we store it in our state. And then down at the bottom, we're going to output that beneficiary. So what does that look like? There it is. OK, cool. We've got our beneficiary there, 0xD8D. Very ugly, right? If you want to make this look good, let's take that beneficiary and let's chuck it in one of those address components that comes with scaffold ETH out of the box. Oh, that looks much better. You got that ENS avatar, you got that ENS name, you got a little clicky copy button. Very nice. And I guess Vitalik is the beneficiary. So what if we wanted to build a front end to allow us to update that, right? We're going to need some kind of input. Scaffold ETH has an address input. When you're building apps for Web3, you're going to need addresses. You're going to need address inputs. These are kind of new components that haven't really been around before. Scaffold ETH has all of these out of the box. So you'll notice I have some state new address, some on change that updates that, and then it gives me that nice text box there. So I type in atg.eth or I paste in some address, and it gives me this kind of nice ENS avatar, ENS name, blocky, all of that stuff out of the box. Okay, so we've only read from our contract so far in our React. Now we need to write back to our contract, right? Again, we're gonna wrap that use write contract from WAGMI, and we're gonna use scaffold write contract. Just does some extra things with the wallet and some extra abstractions. But look at this, we create this write your contract component, and then I can call write your contract with a function name, and it's gonna tab complete. When I do that first little quote after function name, it's gonna give me a list of all my functions. I choose set beneficiary. Then for the args, I pass in that new address that we've been tracking in the state, and we get this nice little button, and I type atg.eth, and I hit set beneficiary, and Vitalik's sad because now I'm the beneficiary. Awesome. Okay, so we've basically built our smart contract. We've added a beneficiary system. Then we built our front end. Well, we kind of built our smart contract. We tinkered with it in that debug page. Then we moved on to writing our front end. And now I'd say we're pretty good. It's pretty ready to go. Let's deploy this thing. So to deploy an app with scaffold ETH, you do a yarn generate, and that creates a deployer account. You're going to keep it in a specific place where it's already get ignored. You would have to try hard to commit this thing to Git, right? We see developers accidentally commit private keys now and then. This is a one-time use private key that lives just in this directory that you're going to fund with a burner wallet or something with just enough money to deploy the contract, very isolated and hard to screw things up. Then you do a yarn deploy, but -- network. So you've been doing a yarn deploy locally, trying things out. Now we do yarn deploy -- network Gnosis, and we deploy our smart contract to Gnosis. And then there's one more change we need to do. We need to tell our app, who is currently pointed at the Foundry local chain, hey, let's work off of Gnosis. We type in chains.gnosis, and our whole app now switches over to Gnosis. You see it in the top right. If I click any of these addresses, now it's going to take me to the block scout, the Gnosis block explorer. And let's see, I probably type in atg.eth, and I hit set beneficiary, and we see the transaction is successful, and then there we go, I'm the beneficiary. And that was all on chain, right? This was all on Gnosis. So the last piece we need to do is deploy that front end. This is the most fun command, yarn vercel YOLO prod. That's how I do things, right? And that sends your app all the way to vercel. I think you might have to get in there and change a setting now to say, hey, make this public. But after that, you get a URL, and anyone can go to that URL, example, Berlin, Dapp, something. They can connect their wallet and they can use your app. And that's the most important thing. You're able to write a smart contract, tinker with it and make sure it works, build a front end, deploy your contract to a public chain, deploy your app to a public server, and then anyone can go to your app and connect their wallet and use it. So that's building decentralized apps quickly. You really can, although these were just screenshots, I promise you really can build an app in like 40 minutes with the right knowledge. So that's our tooling. And then I'll finish this off with some cool things that are happening within the Build Guild. So in the grants area, we started with ETH streams. It was this smart contract right here. And this smart contract is different than almost any other streaming contract you'll see. First of all, most of the time it starts full. I trust you. I'm going to deploy a contract. I'm going to load it up with some ETH, and I trust you to go build what you think is best for the ecosystem. And you can withdraw from this smart contract. The other weird thing is it sort of pauses when it fills all the way up. And this is something we noticed. Most Ethereum developers start as nights and weekends developers. Maybe you're around and you're doing some cool contributions, then you get busy with something else. That's okay. If you disappear for a while and come back, your stream will be paused full, waiting for you. And so I started streaming to a bunch of people. I, like an idiot, deployed that code that you just saw to mainnet like 100 times. Shouldn't have done that. But we're supporting a ton of devs with these ETH streams. And then we were like, well, we kind of want to do this like group stream thing. So at the same time, we had Build Guild Labs, which is kind of like a DevRel, more over on the education side. But toward the end of this series, we were like, let's build a streaming smart contract. And these bottom three things are building that streaming contract. Here we are live. Looks like Edda's a little stressed in the last one. Sorry, Edda. We built this cohort streaming that lets you stream to a group of people. And then we really leaned heavily into Jesse's Hacker House and all the really great hackers that Jesse was finding. And then even our internal group, the Sand Garden, started using this to fund their builders. So we partner with some ecosystem heroes. We have a huge list of these things, but grants is really the best way to go. We started giving small grants, and with those small grants, we've streamed over 772 ETH, and that's it. That's Build Guild. We're education, tooling, and grant giving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Austin. Great to see the evolution of Build Guild. And we have a few minutes for questions for Austin, if you're up for it. I know it's the end of the day here. Any questions for Austin?
There were also more slides there. I just stopped because my timer ran out. Oh. That's okay, though. Could we bring the slides back up? I could show off a little bit more, if that's okay. If I have an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, everyone's out like, I want to go get a beer. Come on, man. Yeah, okay, so then Build Guild has this back office where we control everything. This is like our app, and this is where we can see kind of all the recent builds from all the builders. We see the activity, what people are posting, what they're up to. We can even see stream withdrawals. Every time someone withdraws from their stream, we get a sweet update about what they're working on. Looks like Hunter added a default frame to Scaffold Base, and he's working on the burner wallet. That sounds exciting. Okay, so we noticed something within the onboarding process where we were kind of a little bit too quick to give streams, and we needed something in the middle that gave us more feedback about a builder, and that's where the batches program came from. And really, this came from Carlos and the Sand Garden. They were like, let's build this thing, and I was just really excited about it as soon as I heard the idea. But basically what we do is we advertise to you within the Build Guild app, which, by the way, none of this stuff captures information about you. You connect your Web3 wallet and you share what you want to share. We never take your email. We never do any of that shit. So it's all like very Web3 native. But we do throw up an advertisement to you now and then and say, hey, come join the Build Guild. You've learned how to build a token vendor and a staking app and a dice game and a DEX. You know enough to at least start asking the right questions, right? You're not the blind man feeling the elephant anymore. You've got a pretty good idea that you have a lot to learn, right? And so now we can be a little bit more one-on-one with you, and we can spend more time with you. We're gonna bring you into a Telegram group with like 20 other people, and we're gonna circle up around a GitHub repo. So we're gonna teach you Git etiquette. We're gonna teach you how to make a PR. We're gonna teach you how to contribute to open source, just to make sure you know how to do it. There's a bunch of challenges here where it's more about just making sure everyone knows how to contribute to open source and everyone can make PRs. And then the builders kind of set their own page. Like for each batch, we sort of have a website for each one, and they can kind of control what that looks like. And then as you go through the Build Guild, this grant system is open to you. Anybody, once they go through these batches, once they join the Build Guild, can connect their wallet and say, hey, I want to build this thing. And that's going to show up to us, and we can choose whether or not to YOLO you half the ETH to get started. Some apps that are coming out of Build Guild. We do a lot of prototyping and building. ABI Ninja is one of my favorites. You can give someone a link to ABI Ninja, and basically what it's going to do is you tell it the contract and the network and then what functions you want to show, and it's going to do an automatic front end for that smart contract. So in this case, I'm talking about the DAI stablecoin on mainnet Ethereum. So whatever that address is, /1 for the network, and I want to show them the balance of and the transfer function, right? All of that is one URL that I can share to someone. They land here and they basically get this view, and you can see I put in Vitalik's address and read that he has 1818 DAI, and then I transferred to Patricio, I don't know, 10 DAI or something. Another app that we have is Hacked Wallet Recovery. This is another community-built app from within the Build Guild. Sometimes when you do leak your seed phrase, that ETH gets swept, but sometimes there's remaining assets that the bot didn't sweep. What you can do is use Hacked Wallet Recovery to create a Flashbots bundle. And that bundle is going to never land in the mempool. It's just going to fund your hacked wallet, pull out the assets you need to a safe wallet all atomically without hitting that mempool, and lets you sweep your assets out. Address vision is another fun one. You go to address.vision, you put in an address or EMS, and it's going to tell you all about that address. Even if it's a safe, right? It knows if it's a safe, and it knows what the threshold is, and it knows who the owners are. Just a really nice, quick way to look at apps. And then the Punk wallet is kind of a predecessor of the Burner wallet. It's got all these different networks and all these different tokens on these networks, and it's a quick app that you can build with. There's a lot coming soon from the Build Guild. Call to action: if you're super rich, YOLO 420 to the ETH. If you're not, go build something that will get users. If you're not even a dev, tell your dev friends to go speedrun Ethereum. Thank you. I'm Austin at Ethereum. Hit me up. My DMs are open.
Thank you, Austin. We didn't even talk about Nifty Inc. I was hoping you were going to talk about that one, but thank you so much.
I talked about Nifty Inc. like DappCon 2019. I was talking about the idea of an app that pays for the user's gas, and you come in and you provide value. You create something first, and then later on you sort of start worrying about your seed phrase and your account. That's what Nifty Inc. was about. And I was talking about it then. We built it and deployed it, and it kind of, all that meta transaction stuff sort of led to Yoav and GSN doing all that cool stuff, and that was like kind of a predecessor to like early account abstraction stuff in 4337. They did all the work. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just prototyped early versions. But Nifty Inc. was that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for the talk.